What's up, everybody? Welcome to this afternoon's chat of the Rite in the afternoon. So, I've been going on a little bit at length over the last few days, and I know I keep saying I'm not going to talk about time anymore, but it is really important to get the timing right, so to speak. All right? Make sure that your days line up, make sure that the planets line up. And again, you can go around the nature of what nature limits when you use things like these, right? So, the astrological ingredients, the planet, the stones, the herbs, the bones, the metals, the minerals, all of it in a jar, right? Spell balls. Great stuff. Great stuff. Now, the thing is with those is that you can get really, really myopic with what goes into those ingredients, and you can divide them up by the heaven, by the earth, by the ghosts, and by the human capacity of operations, right? What are you going to be operating on? What condition of life are you going to be working on? Is it a human concern? Is it a spiritual concern? Is it something that is a divine concern that extends outside of yourself? Is it something of a terrestrial concern where it's involving the environment? All right. Those are aspects of the planetary mathematics. Okay. So let's go through the reference chart real quick. So that way you have in your notes those things which will make your life a lot easier when you're looking at the application of these things. Okay. Now remember, the 4 periods of the year change what represents what when it represents it. Okay. So the sun's hours are Sunday is 1, 8, 3, and 10. Monday it's 5, 12, and 7. Tuesday it's 2, 7, 4, and 11. Wednesday it's 6, 1, and 8. Thursday is 12, 3, 10, and 5. Friday is 7, 2, and 9. Friday is 7, 2, and 9. Saturday is 4, 11, and 6. Okay. With Monday, you have Sunday is 4, 11, and 6 is the hour. Monday is 1, 8, 3, and 10. Tuesday is 5, 12, and 7. Wednesday is 2, 9, 4, and 11. Thursday is 6, 1, and 8. Friday is 12, 3, 10, and 5. Got to make that a little bit clearer in my notes. Saturday is 7, 2, and 9. And then on Tuesdays, so Mars ruling Tuesday, all right, its hours on Sunday are 7, 2, and 9. Monday is 4, 11, and 6. Tuesday is 1, 8, 3, and 10. Wednesday is 5, 12, and 7. Thursday is 2, 9, 4, and 11. And Friday is 6, 1, and 8. Saturday is 12, 3, 10, and 5. Okay, now one of the things I'm going to comment here is when I say 1, 8, 3, and 10, I mean 1 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 10 p.m. Or when I say 6, 1, and 8, I mean 6 a.m., 1 p.m., 8 p.m. Okay? So I don't want to restart the video by saying that. I wanted to get you a little bit more engrossed in the material so that way you have that knowing that these are going by AM hours and PM hours. So if it goes 12 to 11 in the morning, and then 12 at night to 11 at night in the evening. So Mercury's hours. So Wednesday is 12 a.m., 3 a.m., 10 a.m., and 5 p.m. Monday is 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 9 p.m. Tuesday is 4 a.m., 11 a.m., and 6 p.m. Wednesday is 1 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m., and 10 p.m. Thursday's 5 a.m., 12 noon, 7 p.m. Friday is 2 a.m., 9 a.m., 4 p.m., 11 p.m. Saturdays is 6 a.m., 1 p.m., and 8 p.m. Jupiter's hours are Sunday is 6 a.m., 1 a.m., 8 p.m. 6 a.m., 1 p.m., 8 p.m. for Jupiter. Monday is 12 a.m., 3 a.m., 10 a.m., and 5 p.m. Tuesdays is 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 9 p.m. Wednesdays is 4 a.m., 11 p.m. 4 a.m., 11 a.m., and 6 p.m. Sorry, because it has the numbers afterwards. Thursday is 1 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m., and 10 p.m. Friday is 5 a.m., 12 p.m., and 7 p.m. Saturdays is 2 a.m., 9 p.m., 4 p.m., 11 p.m. Venus's hours. So these are days ruled by Friday, okay? Sunday is 2 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and 11 at night. Okay? Monday is 6 a.m., 1 in the afternoon, 8 p.m. Tuesday, 12 a.m., right? Midnight. 3 a.m., 10 a.m., and 5 p.m. Wednesday, you're looking at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 9 p.m. Thursday, you're looking at 4 a.m., 11 a.m., and 6 p.m. Friday, you're looking at 1 a.m., 8 a.m., 3 p.m., and 10 p.m. Saturday, you're looking at 5, 12, and 7. Okay? Now, these rotate through if you've not caught the pattern yet. Saturn's hours on Saturday are 5, 12, and 7. So 5 a.m., 12 noon, and 7 p.m. Monday is 2 a.m., 9 a.m., 4 a.m., 2 a.m., 9 a.m., 4 p.m., and 11 p.m. Tuesdays is 6, 1, and 8. Wednesdays is 12, 3, 10, and 5. Thursdays is 7, 2, and 9. Fridays is 4, 11, and 6. And Saturday is 1, 8, 3, and 10. And those are the hours that Saturn rules. So what does all that actually mean? Well, when you want to break it down even further, because again, we're all about breaking it down into its subsequent components, right? Every planet corresponds to an ingredient, right? Sun is frankincense, Mars is dragon's blood, the moon is oh shit, what am I using as the moon? It just depends. For example, let's talk about Sunday of Sunday. The sun of Sunday, okay? Start at the very beginning. There is the sun, it's on a Sunday, it's the first hour of the day, 1 a.m. All right? In the spring equinox to the summer solstice, that is ruled by Aries. It's Mars, right? Then we have Scorpio. Then we have Gemini. Then we have Capricorn, okay? And so what does this mean for the herbal equivalent? Well, 1 is dragon's blood. 8 is opoponax. 3 is cinnamon. And 10 is colophony, right? From the winter solstice to the autumn equinox, Cancer is the moon. Onycha, Onycha. You can find it. It's a resin. It comes out of what are they called? Oyster shells. 8 is galbanum. 3 is sandalwood, and 10 is dragon's blood. Okay, and that's because of the fact that it goes through. Cancer is the first. Aquarius is 8. The third is Virgo, and then 10 is Aries. Okay. Autumn equinox, from the autumn to the winter solstice. The first hour of the day is ruled by Libra. It might be the day of the sun. It might be the principal planet of the sun. But from the autumn equinox to the winter solstice, Libra and Venus is in control. At 8, Taurus and Venus is in control. At 3, Sagittarius and Jupiter is in control. At 10, Cancer and the moon is in control. So it's galbanum, cassia, saffron, and onycha. Right? The winter solstice from the winter solstice to the spring equinox. So if you're watching this when this is getting filmed, it's January 18th. So we're in this period. So the first hour is ruled by Capricorn of Saturn on Sunday, right? At 8, it's the sun for Leo. For 3, it's Pisces at Neptune. And for 10, it's Libra and Venus. And so those ingredients would be colophony for 1. 8 is frankincense, 3 is storax, and 10 is galbanum. And what we do is we're going through the different zodiac. Every 3 months, the top 3 go to the very bottom. And so it rotates so that everything in the cycle of the year. Now, what does this actually mean for you as the individual? Well, it means that if you're doing fixed magic, right, and you need to work on what time it is, got to look at what the order of flow will be when you're using the circle of 12. Where does it start? What month are you in? That's what goes front and center at your apex. So take, for example, us being in the system of working on some spell that we need to create, right? We're working on making a, let's see, we're going to talk about Aquarius. Aquarius being ruled by Neptune, right? Or Aquarius is being ruled by Uranus, right? And so its ingredient is galbanum, okay? So we would use galbanum as the base ingredient. Today's day is Tuesday, so we would use a Mars ingredient as well. And so for Mars, what I would recommend would be to use dragon's blood. So you're using the Mars of Uranus in the properties of Aquarius, right? Those are 3 ingredients. You've got the ingredient for Aquarius, you've got the ingredient for Mars, and you've got the ingredient for the planet that the solar sign is ruled by, right? And so getting these ingredients right forms half the battle. So you're using 3 ingredients to set the time for your spell. Okay, so you use the ingredient of Aquarius, you use the ingredient of Mars, and you would use the energy of, let's see, what was I saying? How do I make that easier for you to how do I make it easier to express? So I'll just flip to that page actually, and then we'll just do it that way. Mars is, it is 2 p.m. on Mars. A day of Mars. What is 2 p.m. on a day of Mars? We'll just use the actual, what it's applied by. So with that being said, I hate time. Hate time. Kidding. I love it. So 2 is Mars, Jupiter, right? And in this period, we've got Aquarius. So again, at 2 today, winter solstice, it's Aquarius. Funny, right? That was what I was just saying. That would be what today represents because we're in this season. And so we would use the ingredients of Aquarius. We would use the ingredients of Mars, and we would attach those to the application of it, right? What is our application of attaching ingredients of Uranus? What does Uranus do? Uranus is the chaotic form of nature. It is the bubble in which the universe exists. The Greek concept XAOS, right? Chaos. So by channeling that energy of chaos, we open up the gates of Uranus. We go through that pathway of Aquarius, through Mars, right? Today's the day of Mars. It's at 2 p.m. We're calling forth the gates of Aquarius through the planet Uranus. Okay, and so you're channeling it down. And so you use the astrological aspect through its behavior, what Aquarius is representative of, why the time matters, right? Calculating time from a bunch of fixed tables is a pain in the ass. It really is. But it's also how energy moves from one condition into another condition. So you're over here on Monday doing a spell at 2, and it's a different energy than the day today, Tuesday at 2. It's a different energy, right? And so going through the clock, all 360 degrees of it, 12 to 12, right? 2 times a day, 12 in the morning, 12 at night. We go through these interactions with these energies. They all exist in the day. They can repeat themselves in the day. And when you're dealing with that sort of thing, when you're dealing with the applications of what does it mean to be able to use these energies? What does it mean to be able to incorporate these energies? Well, for my use, I just substitute in the ingredients. I would substitute in the ingredients for Aquarius, for Uranus, for Mars, and be done with it, right? And so using the correspondence tables to figure out what those actually are becomes the next step in the journey, right? And so going through things like the book of the Shah Hamem Farash by the Aeon Sophia folks is that, the fellow that wrote it went through and did all the calculations so that you don't have to really worry about like, oh my God, what does this do, right? Peter Barrell in his Mastering Herbalism book is a great source in the background of it too, as well as Cunningham's Herb Encyclopedia. They all have the planetary herbs and astrological herbs associated to those things. And so the classical application is the sun is frankincense, the moon is jasmine, Mars is dragon's blood, Mercury is mandrake, the European stuff, not the American one. Then you have got Venus is your tonka beans, Jupiter is your star anise, Saturn is your myrrh, Neptune is your willow, and Uranus is clove. Okay, so again, time, space. Silverweed, Dester Miller, or the fly argoric, you can use as Pluto. Not a planet anymore, unfortunately, but still useful. Aries ingredients are dragon's blood, Taurus is cassia, Gemini is cinnamon, Cancer is onycha, Leo is frankincense, Virgo is sandalwood, Libra is galbanum, Scorpio is opoponax, Sagittarius is saffron, Capricorn is colophony, Aquarius is galbanum, and Pisces is storax. Okay. Now, you want to go a little bit deeper. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, so we are channeling the ingredients of Mars. So we would need dragon's blood. We would need Aquarius would be galbanum, and the ingredient of Uranus would be clove. So we would use dragon's blood, clove, and galbanum. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into the elemental natures and the elemental behaviors, okay? So we have 3 ingredients that form our set of time. Now, we want to look at the hour specifically. It is Uranus, right, that we're looking into. So it has 4 different states. It's got the earthy, airy, fiery, and watery nature to it. So what would those ingredients be? Well, according to the gentleman that wrote the book, dogbane, mandrake, coltsfoot, and grains of paradise are the earth aspect of Uranus. The tobacco, mace, caraway, and fennel are the air aspects of Uranus. Fire's aspects would be the psilocybe cubensis, magic mushrooms. I would stay away from those. Lemongrass or wormwood. Mind your allergies, folks. And the water ingredients would be lily of the valley, storax, or lemongrass. And so, again, you want to get myopic with this stuff, right? So if you're going in and you're going to work with these planetary hours and you really want to get those nice nichey things down, right? You would use, like we said, you would use, today being Mars, dragon's blood, galbanum, clove, and then you would pick, do you need it to be an earthy aspect? So you could use grains of paradise. You could have the airy aspect. You could use tobacco. You could use wormwood for its fire and its lemongrass. Right? And so you have 7 ingredients that you've applied to create a spell to tap into today's blend on a Tuesday at this hour. So you would use those to be the foundation blend for your work. Right? And so it's chemistry, right? Planetary astrological timing in an herbalist capacity. So that way you have those temporal ingredients in those behaviors in your spellcraft. So that when you make your talismans and you create of those times, you have an ink blend that you can make that channels specifically this part of the year, this part of the day, this hour of the day. And so when you write with that, you're channeling in the celestial power that rules this time, rules this hour, right? So what would you use that for? Getting very, very specific, you would use that kind of an ink if you're going to be drawing down any of the planetary or astrological forces, their intelligence, into a crystal, into a scrying bowl of water, into any of the work that you're doing if you're going to be making a sigil of those things at that angle in that time. Why? Because it's the foundation of it. You've got the zodiac, you've got the planetary, you've got the subplanetary that rules the zodiac, right? The day that's being ruled by everything, right? So you've got Mars as your primary ingredient. You've got the galbanum as your secondary. You've got your tertiary ingredient as your clove, right? That forms the big 3. And then inside of that, well, do you want it to be more fiery? Do you do 2 fiery to 1 airy? Do you do more airy and more spiritual or more physical grounded with the earthy? Do you want it to be more of a spirited, subtle, like sudden sort of thing? Or do you want it to be like overwhelming force of water, right? Like bolt of fire, giant flood. Like, what do you want? Do you want it to be a little trickle on a stream? Do you want it to be like a raging typhoon? Like, the amount of ingredients that you use, which ingredients you use, how many ingredients of that subsection that you do apply for, that's where this stuff gets interesting. That's where the nuance of your magic comes in. And this is where the nuance of understanding that the planetary times and the hours and such are as important as knowing where in the positioning state you are doing it. Where is the rising sun, right? Where is the energy coming from? If you're using the planetary aspects of the Planets Today website and it's plotting that the sun is the center of our solar system, but the energy that you want to draw from is to the south, that direction, right? But it is of Jupiter, right? So you would actually line up your ritual space to face that over there, pulling it into your ritual space before you. You would line up your array, whatever point is the apex of the triangles or the stars or the squares or whatever it is, whatever that apex is, as that energy comes into your space and splits based on the sacred geometry, right? As the energy divides out, all of those secondary and tertiary lines become lines of flow. How they bounce off each other and create the patterns of the sacred geometry or the glyphs inside the array, how they work with the different applications of these things. It's understanding that it's all lining things up and just basically flipping a switch and everything gets full, right? It's flipping on a celestial light switch, essentially, once you get these hours and the times down. So it becomes a lot simpler to be able to go through and say like, all right, well, I've got this jar that represents this ingredient. I need to put it over here. And I've got this jar and I'm going to put it over here. And then I don't have to worry about what day of the week it is. Right? So making your planetary anchors is an important step in separating your need to be limited by time, because these things are conduits of time all the time. There's no giant shutter over the world saying, oh, you can only have this energy, this time of day, etc. No, it all exists. But the more we can isolate it down, the more we can refine how we trigger those celestial strings, which have been observed to cause specific behaviors throughout history, right? This is what astrology does, is what happens when you're in this solar system, in this solar sign, with this astrological sign behind it, right? That's what astrology is doing. It's telling you these are the behaviors that are observed. What do you want to do about it, right? What do you want to do to get to that? If you're outside of the congruency for that, what do you have to do in order to shift your stuff, your spell work, whatever, to line it up to include those elements and those virtues so that way you get that effect, right? And in this case, you would go through and you would use the herbs for it. You can use the stones for it. You can use bones for it. That gets a little bit more complicated because animals, they're more of an elemental earthy behavior for the most part. The environmental manipulation would be the mineral, right? The metal is the longer scale version of that. So you've got the environmental that's conducive to life and the environmental that is just the environment and it doesn't require life. And then you've got the behaviors of that life within the environment, which would be those animals. So if you're doing something of fire, you would use a desert critter. If you're using something of water, you could use a swamp or a fish. If you're doing something of the air, use a bird feather. If you're doing something of the earth, something that slithers, scales, claws, hooves, that sort of thing. Right? So that just depends on what it is within the time that you're working in, what ingredients that you use and why you use them. And you can use them for the laws of sympathy. You can use them for the laws of antipathy. You include everything but the kitchen sink so that all things, like the color arrangements, absorb what you don't want. So whatever's left, whatever isn't accounted for in your totem, in your spell, in your symbol, is the effect that manifests. Or everything that you've included in your spell is what's enhanced to the point where it manifests the spell as you need it. So going through every single day and figuring out what ingredient is what is part of this book project that I'm doing, right? So like I've said before, it's the first major section was dealing with the Saturn of Libra or the Saturn of Aquarius or the Saturn of, or the Jupiter of Aquarius. Like these are all very specific symbols and shapes that are above and below. And the ingredients that are going to go into making these images on the page become the gateways through which those things are summoned, right? And so when I'm having this conversation about what day of the week, so Jupiter, right, of Aquarius, right, would be what would I do on a Thursday in January would be the Jupiter of Aquarius, right? So what spell am I going to cast in January? I would put on this grid whatever it is, because that will have the principles and the properties of the galbanum, the clove, and Jupiter's ingredients, which would be the star anise, right? Or we could get really specific with it. And for the fiery aspect of it, it could be meadowsweet or it could be cloves. The airy aspect of it could be oak. The fiery aspect of it could be agrimony or plantain or sassafras or copal. Or its watery aspect could be cinquefoil, nutmeg, or hyssop, right? And so we can, again, get really myopic in how we deal with the ingredients of Jupiter and Uranus as the ruler of Aquarius, right? And the thing is that it used to be that Aquarius and Pisces were Saturn, right? Or Saturnine. And so you would have these dark energies, and it's not about it being like dark as in like, oh my God, it's evil dark. It's just like when a lot of the early astrological things were being developed, they didn't account for these things because they couldn't see these things. They could understand that the behaviors were there, but they didn't understand the application of those behaviors in the time, space, location. And so by being able to divide that out, by being able to go into depth on these things, they are doing they're doing the best they can, and we have to do better moving forward. It's like those of us that are working with the planetary hours, those of us that are working within the planetary hours anyway, getting very, very specific as to what these tables can really do when you think of things like the Picatrix, when you are creating talismans under the influence of very specific astrological and planetary forces made of very specific ingredients to do a very specific thing, right? How did they come up with those ingredients? What were the associations that allowed them to understand the relationship between time, ingredients, manifestation, right? What did they do? And there's this really crazy book by John Baptista Porta called Natural Magic. So this is my copy of it. But it goes through 20 different books of natural sciences, of magic and folklore and herbal wisdom and things like that. And this stuff gets downright wacky. I'm not kidding. But the point is in order to be able to understand what our ancestors thought, what our ancestors were working on, we have to understand the basics and the foundations of time. We have to go through and we have to figure out, all right, what day is it? What time is it? What's the ruling influence of that time? And is that an ingredient that I want to include in my work or not? If it's Tuesday, just use the ingredients of Mars and you're fine. Use your dragon's blood, right? If you want to go really specific, use your Galbanum and your dragon's blood because it's Aquarius and Mars, right? But if you want to go really, really specific, you can go dragon's blood, Galbanum, clove, and then you would go subdivide that even further if you want to get really, 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 really specific. And you would use your elemental qualities of those, along with the elemental qualities of Mars, because today is primarily the day of Mars, right? And so you stack these ingredients, you stack this idea of we're building all of this into the spell. So this is your first ingredient that you add. This is the first spell blend that you're using. This is the first application of it. And into the spell, that powder goes, right? And so when you're dealing with things like those gates that I'm drawing out for like the Venus of Gemini, that would be what's Venus's actions on a day of Mercury, right? Or what is occurring in the sign of Gemini on a Friday, right? Or what happens when Venus, right, is a Friday and you're trying to get Mercury to do something, right? So you would look to those energies and you can use that one glyph to do all those three different things because you are tapping into Venus, Gemini, and Gemini's ruler is Mercury. So you're tapping into Venus of Mercury. So on Friday, you can work with Mercury using the symbol, or if you want more of the Venus energies, or you can use it for Gemini, or you can use it for Mercury, right? You could use it on a Wednesday, Venus of Gemini. You could use this on a Wednesday. Why? Because Wednesday is Mercury's ruler. So you could use the hour of Venus on a Wednesday and still get the same effect. You could use this in the hours of, like I said, you can use it in a bunch of different ways. So you're not limited to just one thing, depending on the time of the year. And if you're actually in the sign of Gemini while you're doing this, that's even better, right? But if you have your ingredients will pull those associations through their nature, through those essences of the arrangement, right? They don't stop being associated with those planets or those energies just because the time of the year is different. That continues. What is the most significant is what is above head now, and we're bringing that down into our system, right? We're fixing that to what we're doing. But if you have to get really specific and you want to make sure that it exists in a set frame of time with a specific set of energies, then you would combine the current day, the astrological force of that day, and the time in which it represents, right? So you can have 4 separate qualities that you've included without getting into the elemental natures of each. Which sounds really complicated, but it isn't. It isn't. Just have your tables and charts in front of you, depending on what spells you're trying to cast. What influence, does it deal with life? Does it deal with the mind? Does it deal with time? Does it deal with wealth? Does it deal with health? Does it deal with insight and divination? Does it deal with the physical universe, right? And you can go through and you can figure out, well, do I want this behavior to be magnified by using it in this way? And that's when you go and you look deeper into how the time works, right? And then the subdivisions of the hour, then you can get into very specifics. This is the yin set, this is the yang set of what those hours represent and how those hours manifest. So I hope that I've not confused you too much and I've given you some good food for thought. Hit me up in the comments if you've got any questions on this, because it does get pretty overwhelming if you're trying to go just for planetary associations instead of astrological ones. So how could the planet of the sun on a Sunday also be Mars, right? Also use dragon's blood instead of frankincense, right? Well, it's because the first hour in the spring, it's ruled by Aries. In the first hour in the summer solstice, it's ruled by Cancer. On the first hour in the autumn equinox, it's ruled by Libra. And in winter, it's Capricorn, right? So all your ones are different. All your twos are different. All your threes are different, right? And so you can apply a yearly spell conjure, and you could use, if you're going to cast the spell first day on a Sunday in the first hour, you could use Dragon's Blood, you could use Onicha, you could use a Galbanum and Colophony to channel that first hour. And then you could use something for the 8th hours, the Opoponax, Galbanum, the Cassia, the frankincense, right? Or you could use cinnamon, sandalwood, saffron, and storax for the 3rd hour. You could use Colophony, Dragon's Blood, Onicha, and Galbanum for the 10th hour, right? And you're getting these fixed blocks of time, which you can then put in an array, each to their 4 points of the year, lined up accordingly, and you could go really in depth with that. And then you could use that as like a grand conjuration of a spirit from outside of time. Why? Because you're including all of time and all of this particular planetary energies, zodiac equivalent of that time and of that division. So I hope that helps, my friends. And I really do think that that's going to end my conversations on time. And as we get into the behaviors of what each planet does, specifically in relation to other things, like when you want to include the Jupiter or Venus, you would add ingredients of Jupiter, you would include ingredients of Venus, and then you would go, and if you wanted to, what time of day do you want to cast the spell? And that's when you would go back and you would reference, well, I want to use this astrological ingredient, or I want to use this planetary ingredient, just to get that much deeper, that much more specific, right? And then what does it matter what time of the year it is? It doesn't. As long as you understand the day as the ruling force and the zodiac of that force is what receives it, right? That's the zodiac is the bigger, the planet is the lesser. And then there's the individual. When were they born? What day of the week were they born? All right. Well, do they have to go left or right on the clock in order to be able to get to their time of birth, symbols of birth, etc.? You can figure out how it all fits together and how every soul is an extension of the unity of creation, right? And you're plotting and you're planning, and the energies, sigils, and stuff that you draw are very, very specific because they're channeling those energies through the celestial outside into something tangible and physical on this world that you're redirecting through that living body, through that interaction of that's when that soul came through. That's what the life is. They're living this life in this way, but they need this energy over here. Your talisman is the circuit for that. And so you're creating those circuits. And the better your circuits are, the better the arrays are, the better the foundations of your magic is, the more manifestation occurs rapidly, right? It shouldn't take you 3 weeks to make a spell manifest. It should be as fast as you possibly can make it, right? It should occur as fast as human thought because you're connecting that energy. Once you get that energy line built, it's done, right? The energy is there. It exists. The spell is cast, etc. So with that being said, it is important, but only when you're doing really, really precise types of magic, when you're looking to do very specific things and not affect the world in a disastrous kind of way. So that way you've got the direct manifestation as close to the target goal that you want. Now, there are going to be times when you just have to cast spells and you can't focus on that. You have to focus on just the primary moving forces, right? And again, if you have planetary anchors, astrological anchors, you don't have to worry about that because those are already compensating for the different directions. You just open the gates accordingly and you use these as external intermediaries, and then they have a base for that energy to exist, right? You can compound them stack by stack with just one array with multiple arrays drawn upon it, or you can use a round in each separate section with different gates. So you can stack arrays in a couple of different ways, just piling pieces of paper on top of each other. Not really what I mean, but if you do the array construction where you've got the animal skin, the herbal, the mineral, the metal, the stones on the back of those images that you draw in the sacred inks, then that becomes something that you can just put down and then put other things on top of, and it builds those energy layers while you're building the circumference layers. So it allows you to create multi-level compressions of density and dimensional applications of this stuff. So the more you can control those facets in your spell work, the less you have to deal with understanding that you are subject to those things outside of your spells. All right. The more you understand that in ritual, you can create exactly what you need because you're dividing yourself out of space and time. You are putting layers, dimensional layers of meaning on your focus point, your altar, right? And around that, you're putting your planetary anchors, your astrological anchors, your stones, your crystals, what have you, to make a grid that funnels into the spell in the center, right? So that it has the energy to create that tower, that pillar of magic that then goes and becomes a fixed point around which the axis mundi spins, and there your spells will manifest. So anyway, my friends, stay safe. Have a wonderful afternoon. Try not to give yourself too much of a headache. And do write down those planetary hours from the beginning of the conversation. But be aware that time is some funny shit. Time gets really interesting. Anyway, I will chat with you later, and I will see you bright and shiny early tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for the spell of the day. Stay safe, my friends, and I will see you then.